We're live. Episode 136 of live drawing. Give people a little time to show up, but tonight we're going to continue working on the birthday TMNT piece we started last week. This was the prelim we drew while we were live. We did this whole thing. I went in and added just a little bit more ink wash to it just to show where the shadows would be. And I also did another prelim during the week. Let me see if I can raise this thing up a little bit. There we go. Give us a little more space. That's better. This one I did afterwards just to give a second option. You can see there, group shots. They're both group shots. All four turtles had pizza. It's trying to imbue the characters and their personalities in with things, like in this one, Mikey eating the pizza and Raph just like reaching for a slice but looking angrily at Mikey, and Donnie and Leo in the back. This one, it's a layered piece. We're going to have to do a little bit of perspective drawing just so that we get our vanishing point right, and then we'll be filling it in. I started penciling the characters in a little bit just to get our spacing, to get that proportionality that we need, and just roughing out where things would be. We'll clean things up as we go, and we can add, whatever we need be. I was thinking about this block here would probably be a solid concrete block, but I was looking at the old TMNT kids playset, and they would have like pipes just coming out of brick walls. So I don't think anybody's going to care. It's a birthday drawing, but I might add like a pipe drain opening here just for the heck of it, because it would look like that they're outside their layer then. So, I did get some additional instructions for the piece when I sent it, so let me pull that up to make sure I don't forget anything, because we have to add the birthday message. I think they wanted it on the pizza box, just to make sure. I thought about adding some dialogue, that was the thing. Now that I've done it, I don't know where the appropriate spot would be, and I think we're going to leave it off. I think I'll. He said he trusts me, and I think I'll just leave that part off. I might just do like a cutout of one that he can take off if he wants to. But our vanishing point, as we know, is off screen. Just want to make sure I get it right. I think I put it out here, so we can put it about here. And the midpoint is like right here. Here's where our horizon line is, so we can just draw that in. And we're really only doing 1 point perspective, so we're not going to go lose our minds over with what needs to be where. This will be a full bleed piece, which I know makes some people anxious when I draw that way, but it's just something I do. I don't really know why. I have that there. The beauty of it is I can just use, this is a beveled ruler, which means it has like a grid printed on it. I really didn't want to do that. So I can use the grid that's printed on it for my main reference. So there's our light source. We wanted to do a grate. We'll just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I tend to find when it's drawn perfect, it doesn't look as good. And we'll go in, we'll rule it out, but then when we go in, we will add, we'll ink it with just freehand. Hey, Martha's, how's it going? I'm okay. I'm tired. This week's catching up with me, but I'm happy to be here. Happy to be working on this drawing, which is coming together. I don't draw the turtles very often, even though I drew them for you know IDW a handful of times. I grew up reading the comics and watching the shows and everything. I don't know. I just don't draw them very often. How are you today? Things getting any better? You said you were going through a rough patch last time, so I hope things, as our friend likes to say when he logs in, I hope things get better if they're not better. Always remembering that vanishing point. I know you can't see what I'm doing right now because I poorly planned where I could have moved this down 6 inches, which I should have. But here we go. You'll see it when I'm making it, I promise. Okay, yeah, I will check my email. I haven't checked my personal email in a little bit. It's been busy week. It's that season. I know we talked about it a little bit, but tax season. So when you're an artist, you have to pull all your expenses and everything together. I send them off to a tax professional. Here's our. I actually think I messed this up. Yeah, I messed it up. So we'll be able to do that all over again, and you'll be able to watch me do it because I will plan it better. I need to move the vanishing point further off the page. Unfortunately, that's an annoying mistake. But you can move it down and you can see me redo it. I'm going to move this over a little bit like this. And move it all the way over here. Just see how that looks. How does that look? That looks fine. We can work with that. Move this up like this. And then I think it goes below the horizon line. Yeah, it does. It goes below the horizon line like that. And then we can add another one like this just because. Oops. My paper slid a little bit. We're going to have to tape it down. See if I have some tape right here. I usually have tape. That way it holds it in place. Yeah, it's just annoying. I did okay for myself, and I set aside. I try to. If anybody asks me, like, I'm not a tax professional. I can just tell you what I did, and you can extrapolate what you want from there. As I always try to set aside, you know, roughly 40% of whatever I make is taxes, and FICA and all that stuff takes a big chunk. It's different for every state, different from every, for everybody, depending on what they make and what they're required to save or whatever. But that's generally what I got to plan to set aside. So, like, yep, they are birthday turtles for a friend of ours. So let's try to fix this again. I messed it up the first time. How far over did this go? If this is the center bit, yeah, we can move it over a little bit. We can go like this. Then we can go like this. I actually need to add a little bit more to this. Mikhail Joseph. Hi guys, what's up? I'm new to the channel. Oh, welcome aboard. We are working on a commission piece tonight that we started last week. Here's I'll show you the prelim. This is what we drew last week. Hey Caleb, good to see you, man. Hold on, my chat window seems to be a little off. See how that works. I am an artist, actually. I drew the Ninja Turtles. I drew the Tick for 10 years. I've drawn lots and lots of comic books, so I am an artist, if that's what you're inferring. Leo, that's my favorite turtle, too. Very nice. Leo leads. Donatello does machines. Raphael is cool but crude. Michelangelo is a party dude. Amazing that I can remember the lyrics to an animated series from, 30 years ago that I have not seen in many, many years, but I can't remember, normal stuff, normal important day-to-day stuff like passwords on my computer and things. There we go. Red Bee. I'm not familiar with that one. There's a public domain wiki, and there's certain companies that I would say that you're pretty safe, like St. John, and there are a few different companies that are defunct. Um, that are pretty safe. And then you do have to do your research because some characters are public domain, but they are trademarked, like their name is trademarked. So like it does take a little bit of research, you know. Ones that come to mind that are definitely public domain are like the Black Terror, the Green Llama, Stardust the Super Wizard, Skyman. There's a handful of characters that I can think of in those terms that are definitely public domain. Bullet Man and Bullet Girl. Um, the Silver Streak is kind of the speedster of the group that is public domain. Hey, Michael, good to see you, man. I did borrow your usual welcome of hoping that everyone is doing well, and if not, that things get better soon. I always credit you though that I steal your entrance. What do I do for fun? I draw stuff. I like to go fishing. I like running, cooking, walks on the beach. Pretty standard stuff. Going to museums when I have time. I haven't had a lot of time. I've been mostly just working on Undersea Hero, which is the graphic novel. It has 8 pages to go. So Turtle Power. Hey, Tony Sedani's here. Tony, that Fantastic Four piece looked great. The one that you posted. The we're doing the really exciting ruler work right now. So it's riveting to watch gridding out to do a perspective portion of a background. Right now I'm just working on a ceiling grate that's kind of our light source for the piece. And I don't have to go too crazy on it. I'm just eyeballing it. I just want to make sure that it's the verticals are in perspective. The horizontals can just be kind of eyeballed. Using the beveled ruler, which is, I can't recommend highly enough. It's transparent and it has a grid printed right on it, so you can use other lines to indirectly measure things. You do martial arts, cool. That's neat. Never got into martial arts, but it's pretty cool. Enjoy the films. The old Bruce Lee flicks. Kurosawa movies. Enjoy those. Yeah, Martha's, I'll definitely, when I get done with the line art, my plan is to send out the surveys and to set up a page, like a Dropbox page for my friends that are helping me out with the flats and stuff. And thank you very much. I'll definitely hit you up on it. What we'll probably do while you guys are flatting it is letter the whole thing so that the lettering is done. There we go. As you can see, there's our grid from right above. So like our light will be coming down like this, and like this. Didn't quite intend for that much light, but we'll make it work. Self-trained. I didn't know you could do self-training for martial arts. I always thought that was one of those where you needed a teacher. Again, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I don't claim to know anything. Just what I've seen in the movies, that's all. Doesn't everybody like watching ruler lines get gridded out? These don't have to be perfect because these are going to be just like brick wall. I mean, normally that's an easy way to like show perspective, is to show a brick wall that's perfectly in perspective. But to me, that tends to get stiff. Like it doesn't look like a brick wall anymore. So what I do is I rule it out like this, and then when I go to finish that part of the drawing, is I don't use a ruler. Oh, you're a martial arts prodigy. Right on. Gridding lines, so fun. Anytime I have to do a story that takes place in a city, I would say I spend most of my time doing grid lines like this, because you think about all the buildings and the backgrounds and it just takes forever. That's why a lot of people use a lot of the 3D models and stuff, at least for backgrounds these days. It just saves, 100 hours. Some people even take screenshots of like Google Earth and just trace that as their city. I think I ended yeah. Okay, so what we can do is we can go like this. We can get to our horizon line like that. Go like this. And we'll come back in like this. End that. Like that. And then we'll come across like this. There we go. Yeah, Black Cat should be fine. I know we can't like put her name on the cover or anything just because of the public domain. Well, because of the trademark that Marvel has on the name Black Cat. But you know, you can put her on the inside. So it's like using the Golden Age Daredevil, the Lev Gleason one, the guy that's like half red and half blue. He he is public domain for sure. Let's make sure we just get the last of our lines in here so that we don't have to come back to it. I think because of how we've changed this, we can bring this all the way back now. Like that. I think we had another one that was kind of like this. I wish you were more athletic. It's a short line, so I'm just eyeballing it. Because what we'll do is we'll go in and, you know, add the brick like this. And I always find it better to show like different size pieces. I think it's more exciting to look at. When I see just a grid that's perfectly screened, I find it boring. Michael DeFonte, busy man. Busy man. Yeah, we were talking the last couple of weeks, Michael, about doing a channel anthology book after Undersea Heroes done. Where everybody just does a story with a public domain superhero or character that they'd like to use. I was actually thinking about some of the other ones the other day. Like so many of them are just created by like great creators, where it would also be interesting to like maybe put a little bit of history of who worked on them in the book. Like Will Eisner created a bunch of characters when he worked for a company called Fiction House. Yeah, Bill Everett, Lou Fine, you know, so many phenomenal creators. Jack Cole. But it would be cool to add a little bit of history to it. Yeah, it would just be for fun, you know. People could do one page. They could do one. I would say like one to 8 or 9 pages would probably be like the max. I mean, I don't think anybody should be doing a bunch of like a zillion pages for no pay, but people can do whatever they like. I don't. But it seemed to get a little traction. So after Undersea Hero, I already started plotting a story of a public domain character I'd like to use just for fun, for funsies. A nice short story instead of a big long graphic novel. This is the longest piece I've ever worked on, the Undersea Hero book. I've never done more than a regular sized comic, not even like an annual. I think the longest one I ever did prior to this was like 38 pages, maybe 40 pages. So basically an entire issue on top of that is what this one is. This is designed to be like a 3-issue plus mini series all in one book. You know, if we ever wanted to do single issues of the first story in the future, we could just do it up. And I've said there's a bunch of people that hang out on the channel that don't make comics. Like we could figure out ways to get people involved just for fun. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like I said, I did that dime box book years ago, and we filled it up with short stories, and we did fake ads, and we did all kinds of stuff. I did a character called Sub Saunders for that, which was fun. He's a guy who just has not he just a random guy that has a nuclear submarine, and the government asks in the story I made asks him to save the day. But unfortunately, the ocean they need him to go to is on another planet, so they just strap his submarine to a rocket ship and blast him off into space. This will be dark Indian. This will all be like solid ink, so I'm just trying to get the gist of it in. And then we gotta draw Raph sitting over on the corner here. Oh, I forgot we had a second platform here because I'm a dummy. And then this was going to be the water I'm walking through. Wondering if I can rough. I have my ovals. I do. I have ovals. I'm just going to use this to help me eyeball. Yeah, I'm going to have to rough it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to intentionally crop it and put it in a place to where the turtles doesn't cause, don't want to cause a tangent, so have to show intent with the crops. But I think we can get away with putting TMNT entrance here. Oh, no worry, Douglas. How dare you not send me free things? Shame, shame. That's very low on the list of things that any of us need to be working and worrying about in the grand scheme of things these days. I saw that drawing you did with the red marker. That looked pretty great. I like the single color added. That looked really good. I planned to draw an oval at that moment to make you feel bad. That was the plan all along. It worked perfectly. No, I had no idea. Yeah, the single color, I dug it. One extra color. You got, obviously the black from the ink line, the white of the paper, and then the red just it had a good pop. It fits the material, I believe. Drawing the turtles sitting down was always kind of a conundrum because of the way their legs are attached and the way the shell is. So I always find it interesting the way different artists account for those problems. Get this. I did not use the good tape for, like the wall safe tape is usually what I use. This is just regular Scotch tape, so I gotta peel it nice and easy. There we go. I made it. But yeah, on our prelim, we just had Raph just hanging out, sitting up top, kind of picking his teeth with his sigh. So that was what we were gonna do there. And from this angle, You can see a little bit under his chin, so it's kind of another odd angle to draw the turtles. Because if you look back at like the way different creators draw the turtles over the years, I tend to look back at the Mirage stuff, guys like Michael Dooney, Jim Talbot, Jim Lawson, those guys. Um, hey, Jason Turbot, how are things? That's good. Can't complain. Or you could use the like the Office pleasantries joke of, if you did complain, nobody listened to you. A vestigial platitude. Martha's, man, if there's anything worse than paperwork than taxes, it's healthcare paperwork is a pain. I would agree with that as well. Yep. In Massachusetts, they have a thing called the Mass Health Connector, which is good for artists because, like, we're all independent contractors, so we have to get our health insurance without an employer providing anything. So they set it up so that I can compare pricing from a multitude of providers, and depending on my income, they give me quotes that are subsidized. Um, so in my state, they make it a little easier if you work for yourself to find some health insurance if that's what you want to do. In Massachusetts, actually, you have to have health insurance, so uh, they try to make it easy. That's one of those things where, like, when you know you're just learning about working for yourself, you have to figure out. So I gotta fix Leo's eyes. They're like ridiculously far apart. I'm gonna pull them in a little bit. Yep. I was actually sketching pretty well today when I was on my lunch break, so I was able to get most of this figure done and then some of this figure and start this one. So got further along than I thought I would uh, during a lunch break. Absolutely. I was just talking about that with my buddy Jay, who pops in from time to time here, just about like uh, what do we look forward to? Well, we look forward to the next idea that inspires us, even if it's just for like a little sketch or like how we ink part of a thing or whatever. Like that little bit of gas in the tank where like something clicks, or when you figure out finally like a piece of perspective or anatomy or a composition or something like that little bit of victory or perceived victory is enough to get you to the next one, or to get us to the next one. I won't project out, but that's what we were talking about before on the phone. Those little victories. I tend to I can't help but equate it to like my dad, who was a golfer. Um, Samantha's asked, do any of you post on any platforms, and do they send a 1099, or is it just a tip jar? I don't post on any monetized platforms, but in Massachusetts, like any payment over, I think it's like $600 or something. It's a pretty low number. It's less than $1,000. The company is required to send you a 1099. So like I do my sales on my website when I have that open through PayPal, and PayPal sends me my 1099K, which I factor in. Again, I am not a tax person. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not a CPA or a certified accountant. That's just the paperwork that I get and I give to my tax person, and they make it go. But I think Douglas does one of those, like does a subscription-based newsletter where he gets some payment. So maybe he knows if they do like a tax form. I don't know. I don't have enough followers on any single platform for any sort of monetized content, I don't think. Like YouTube, I've got what, 500 followers? 500 or so? A little less. I don't know what the threshold is for that for YouTube. They send out YouTube creator like things because they want you to want to get there and do the work to like drive traffic to their site and stuff. And I ain't got time for that. There you go. You got to figure it out yourself if you get one. I just know that if I get sent one of those, it gets sent to my tax person. That's all. Any official paperwork. And some places have professionals that'll, if you have a small business, which is what being an artist is, like they'll give you, different rates than if you're like a big company or a franchise or whatever. Like the person that does my taxes will, during tax season, do work at like a H&R Block. They do different rates for different people, different businesses and stuff. So find yourself somebody that knows what they're talking about. That's my biggest piece of advice. Perhaps head's a little big, but we'll shape it as we go. I'm hoping we can get to inking at least a figure or so. I did talk to someone who was like putting together a website at one point where I was like, I've got an idea for an app. I can't make it, but if you make it and make millions of dollars, just send me a free subscription, will you? And he said, oh, sure. And I told him that my idea for an app was just, if you collect credit cards, like you use an app on your phone usually, and it can tell where you're doing your business. It can tell on your phone where your location is and what you're doing. And the app that I would like to see someone really smart come up with is one that will let you remit, like that means pay any sales or anything tax that you owe in that state just immediately through your phone. Like you can pay for your uh, if you have to pay for a license or a temporary license or any of that stuff, it's just an app that aggregates that depending on what state you're in or whatever. Some states have none of that, like New Hampshire, no sales tax, no nothing, so there'd be nothing to do. But like many states have many different rules for transient salespeople, which would be someone who's from out of state or whatever. Ah, I see. Yeah, you have to file a separate form for your self-employment income. Mm, that makes sense. That's what they make us do here. We have to fill out multiple forms, and thus it costs more money. But hey, hopefully I'll be done with all of mine this weekend. I've actually been at some shows where, the show, because of the state requirements, and New Orleans was like this. They have to have the local comptroller come to the show, and they come and collect the sales tax from every vendor on Sunday. And I have absolutely seen artists run for the exits when they see that guy, that person coming to collect sales tax. Never seen him run that fast in my life. Hey there, Eric. Yeah, send me a message. Happy to check it out. I always give Raph the bigger elbows because I think of him as bigger elbow pads because I think of him as a scrapper. Like he's down in the trenches fighting. I will be at the Little Giant comic show in New Hampshire, coming up pretty quick. My friend Jason runs that show. It's in Concord, New Hampshire. Little Giant old school comic show. Yep, I will be there. I will be at the Little Giants show. I'm looking forward to it. It's my favorite show in the region, I think. Let me just see if I can pull up the dates. Oldschoolcomicshow.com. There it is, April 5th. And then let's see if you can see if my silly name is there. There's me. Ian Chase Nichols. Yeah, you stopped by earlier at the last stream. Yep, I will definitely be there. Thanks, Marthas. Have a good night. Thanks for coming by and hanging out. Always go with the longer bandana for me personally. If I have a choice. When I was doing the animated adventures pieces, like their style guide said, they all had short bandanas. So I've drawn both when required to do so. But when left to my own devices, I draw the longer bandanas. I always think of the beautiful ones that Eric Talbot draws. He draws such pretty pictures. And it's interesting because his stuff was so gritty and edgy, like when I was a kid. And it was so cool. And like he refined his work so much over the years. It's such an amazing evolution, and he's such a talented and skilled guy. And I would say that all of the uh, Mirage artists that I've gotten to meet and get to know a little bit over the years at conventions have all been very, very kind to me over the years. I have yet to meet a single one that was not, you know, uh, welcoming to the Turtles fraternity when I did my handful of IDW covers. Is this a commission? This is a birthday drawing for my friend Ruben, who's a friend of mine, and he was getting this. I think this is for his friend. I've known Ruben for a long time. He did a an exclusive cover of the Acts of Helena, my Create Your Own series, and he commissioned me to do a bunch of. He does like subscription boxes. It's IRF Authentics. If you ever want to check them out on Instagram, they sell out like immediately. He puts sketches, sketch covers, signed comics, all kinds of stuff in his subscription boxes, and we've gotten to know each other over the years. And I will be sketching at the show. I just don't know what I'm doing yet. Because what I like to do, my favorite way to go to a show is to be fully prepared, have stuff pre-done for sale, like some sale drawings, and just draw little sketches for people while I'm there at the show. It's something I've been doing lately. I usually do it for like I'll collect for a food bank, like if people want to throw in, money for charity. Um, but yeah, that's what I like. That's how I like to sit at a show. Because when I'm there grinding out drawings for people like late at night and things, it's not a fun thing for me to do. And I understand it's work. And work's not always fun, but at this point, I don't know. I haven't figured out what I'm doing at Little Giant yet this year. I've got the Tick comics, the exclusives from Baltimore. That'll be the first time they're available anywhere other than Baltimore last year, and they were a huge hit there. I have a limited supply of those. I'll have my Conan the Barbarian #1 variant covers still. I'll have a bunch of sketch covers and prelims and things that I've done and some drawings. Um, but yeah, if I can swing it, what I'd like to do is get some stuff done before the show, and then while I'm there, I can just do little sketches for charity collection or for tips or whatever. I usually collect for the Greater Boston Food Bank. They're one of the highest rated charities in the country. They have a perfect rating on like every charity rating website you can find, and I don't think anyone would say that people shouldn't be hungry. I mean, people should be hungry. They should have something to eat. And donating, I found out just through working with them that donating money through them is better than like dropping off canned goods or whatever, just because of the contracts they have with local food providers. So they're able to get just like so much more stuff. So if I went out and spent like $5 on, just some canned goods or $20 on canned goods, they could take that $20 and get like, let's say 30% more of the same stuff. So thank you very much, Michael. I tried to have, the layering of the characters in perspective so that it's a little bit more visually exciting with the proportions. I'd say I fudged the perspective on these two figures a little bit. And like if we're being serious, like the water down here, Donnie's probably in a deeper part of the water. So that's why I put water here, was so I could have that excuse. Like somebody couldn't say, "Oh, they're not standing on the same plane," and I can say, "You're right, they're not." Oh, this is all water. And then I'll have like my typical glimmer off the sword. And then let's see if we can get our lettering in here. Just want it on the pizza box for it to say happy 40th birthday. So what I'll do is I'll write it in regular. I'm not going to be able to read the 40, so we're going to have to center it a little bit. So this is what happens when I don't plan out exactly my lettering. Doug says, been spending 20 minutes a day sketching figures. First time I've drawn for only the sake of learning since before 9/11. Now, what kind of studies are you doing? Are you like doing like caricatures, cartoon studies, just in your style? Are you doing figure studies? Like, what are you diving into? Because I feel like your cast, your core cast of Arsenic Lullaby. I mean that like you've got that. You could do that with your eyes closed. At least I think you could. Maybe you disagree, but I think you could draw those characters blindfolded. Are you drawing other people's characters? Oh, figure studies. Wow. Okay. Cool. There's a figure drawing class here I've considered where they just have a model come in. I was considering going to that and just dropping in. Like it's like, I don't know, I think it's like $20 to do. It's a little bit of a tangent there. That's annoying. Let's see if I can fix that. I don't think that works at all. Let's see what we can do here. In the words of Misty Burns, I'd be happier with the dollar. Yes, that's a great one. That's the auto dialer episode. Greetings, friend. Would you like to be as happy as me? Well, you have the power inside you right now. Send $1 to Happy Dude. And then he gives his address. Evergreen Terrace, Springfield. And then Mr. Burns is like, $1 for eternal happiness. I'd be happier with the dollar. I think we can get away with just sneaking the back leg here. And then if that comes down, that's where that thumb is. If that break, have a little bit of texture there. There. And what we can do is we can have that be water. There's actually going to be a nice open spot here where I feel like I should have like some sort of water main or something. Well, let's start inking. Let's just go right into. Thanks, Caleb. Let's get into it with our Tombow brush pens. We've got a couple of different sizes of those. We've got our big old brush pen here, our Kiritaki. Got some liners. So I'll start with Don since he's our foreground character. One of the things I found with the turtles is, for me, if I ink slowly, the lines lose their bounce. So I have to be focused and somewhat confident in what I'm doing, which not always the case for me on either count. Just finding old black and white photos and real quick sketching. I have a female co-lead character in the next issue and have to pick a body type. It'll be whatever body type I can draw best. Yep, I know that. Yeah. I tell you, I definitely can find thin people being harder to draw, like where there's less meat, so you have to get the anatomy just right. Sometimes when I'm drawing, I have to remind myself that it's not realism. Like I'm not doing that, and for some reason, like it's programmed in me to like slow down and make it more realistic, and that it's so far from how I draw that it makes me think that my drawing looks super stiff whenever I try to do too much of that. Need a little water. The bandanas that I draw are kind of more like the old cartoon show, at least in the front. And making sure that the lines break in the right place and are layered in the right place. It's one of the things I love about doing prelims, because like I can just go in here and scoot around and I'm not thinking. And some of the mistakes and some of the things I'm not thinking about end up being nice little surprises. So like when I see them, I'm like, oh, that looks pretty good. And when I go back in here and I'm trying to do it intentionally, it just kind of proves my shortcomings where I'm like trying to like do too much with it, or I'm focusing too much. I also have to remember that this is going to be colored, so like I have to think very carefully about where I'm using what tools. So Michael says, so for toy collectors, McFarlane Toys has gained the rights to the Ninja Turtles. The samples they're showing are quite impressive. Draw what you see, not what you know. Yep, that's a mantra I've said with reference. That's, I know exactly where you're coming from on that. I got to imagine at this point that Todd McFarlane has made more money from toys than comics. But when I say that, I immediately think that, all the inflated numbers and like the residual contracts that no longer exist that those guys got at Marvel and DC, you know, the thresholds for hitting residual payments was different. I always mention there's actually one Turtles cover that I didn't draw, but my name is on, and that's the Skyline Ninja Turtles issue, where they put a skyline of all the creators that had worked on the Ninja Turtles around that time and historically on it, and then just some big names that had touched the characters. Like they put Jack Kirby on there, even though he only ever drew like one pinup. And it's debated whether he or Thiessen or Thibodeau actually drew the thing. The white source is right here, so like our heavy lighting will be on the sides, but I don't want to do too much in black ink because it is going to be watercolor. So Caleb says, thank you. Love how you were drawing them. You're drawing them in a style I like to see them. Always happy to see. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you dig them. Like I said, my brother and I grew up with the old stuff, so it tends to look more like that. While I was paid to draw in the more modern style on multiple covers, um, when I'm drawing them just for like private commissions or for myself, this is more how I draw 'em. And look, back when I was involved in like talking to IDW and the editors that were there, on more than one occasion, I asked if there was an opportunity to do some more stuff, and they basically just said, "Well, we'll let you know." Yeah, I had one Rat King story, and I had one Casey Jones based story. I think we talked about the Casey Jones story last episode, so I won't bore everyone again with that. And there's little bits and pieces and nods to some of the design stuff that I liked from like the animated adventures, like, and some of it is with the pockets and the placements of the straps on the characters. There was actually a point where I was working on one of the covers, and I don't remember which one it was. I pulled out the style guide. They were telling me to remove something after they had told me to follow the style guide to the letter. Like this is you're basically you're a nobody, so you have to do exactly what's in this style guide. So I did, and I sent the drawing in, and they were like, "What the heck is this?" And there were these little pieces underneath their armpits on these plates, and I was told to remove them. And I just said, "Are you sure?" And they were like, "Yeah, why would you add those?" And I said, "Well, they're on such and such page of the style guide." And they just said, "Huh, well, we never noticed that. Take them out anyway." I remember that. Generally pretty good at following directions. And I was kind of treating it like, the side of a box of rice pilaf. You cook it for 20 minutes. It could have been. It could have been that one. It could have been issue 9. Um, it was probably one of the animated adventures ones. If it wasn't the first one, it could have been the Batman TMNT one. I don't remember. It's been so long now. I think the TMNT series, they wrote the regular series. I did a couple covers for that one. I did a one in the 90s with Jenica on it, or around 100, and then I did the 51, they were a little bit more lenient with the look of the turtles on that one. Those two books, I would say, compared to anything with the animated characters. They were pretty strict about that with me, at least. And it's funny because I did talk to some of the other artists who had done those Batman TMNT and animated adventures crossovers, and they were like, no, no, they didn't give us any of those instructions. Now, as an artist, if you wanted to send in your own artwork as a signature series, how does that work? Do you mean like a CGC kind of thing or a CBCS kind of thing where it's like a graded or what? Not sure what you mean. Because I have in the past, I do have an account with CBCS, and I have it with them over CGC for multiple reasons for me. First off, they gave me well, CGC does those like I think they do those on an invitation basis where like they want to make money by cashing in as many people grading their books as possible. But um, I work directly with a rep at CBCS who set me up with really great pricing. Where if I wanted to do, I could check to see if they would do a custom label if we wanted to do something like that. But I have definitely submitted books directly to them. And like, let's say, for Undersea Hero, where I had Greg Rousseau did a cover for me. I could serve as a witness on my own books. So, like, if I had Craig sign a stack and I signed a stack and submitted them, I'm allowed to be the witness of those signatures to verify to get the gold label or whatever. I don't collect graded books, but a lot of people do. So, whenever I went full retail with stuff, I wanted to have that as an option. CBCS also uses Mylar on its inner lining, which is archival, where CGC still just uses plastic and actually does break down over time. So, like, whenever I open up my store again, like I had it as an add-on. And the cool thing about being a creator with CBCS, they give me free expedited. So like instead of putting it at the back end of their queue, we have like a separate line where they'll grade our stuff quicker. And actually, a lot of the time, it's cheaper for me as a creator to go to like a local convention that they're going to be at, even just to pay for the ticket to get in and submit books directly there. Um, or if I'm at a show, like let's say, I'm sure one or the other or both will be at Little Giant because it's a big collector show, like for people who collect high-end, expensive books, old books. So they'll have some sort of grading service there, I'm sure. But yeah, I would just walk over to their booth. And there's a guy named Cody who I've worked with, and he's been always been super helpful. There's another gentleman who's down in Connecticut. I'm trying to remember his name. Who's helped me out too. And I know CGC is the gold standard, but I don't know. I just I've had a really good working relationship so far with CBCS. They've treated me well. Um, so yeah, they were always good customer service for me. There was one time they had a spelling mistake on a label, and they just, I handed it to them at a show, and they fixed it for just fixed it for nothing and sent it to me very quickly. And I'm sure people have good working relationships with the other company. I don't know, never did. Yeah, I know that Ben Bishop, who did Last Ronin stuff, had a signature event with Kevin Eastman, and they did kind of like a group signing. With the turtles, I tend to add a little bit more, a few more strokes than I normally do for other characters. It gives a little texture to their skin, and then I'll add a little bit more like cartoon shorthand. I'll put little specks on them. Because I try to think of them in terms of cartooning and not just, illustrating. So here I'll show you how with my, let me grab one of these liners here. This one's actually too small. That's the small. I use that one pretty much just for drawing faces, like little teeny faces and little teeny panels. Put the tape on. Of course, after we get this thing inked, we're gonna watercolor this thing. So I haven't done a full color piece in quite some time. So the last one I actually did was a painting for the Steamship Authority. I did a painting of their new vessel for the commencement ceremony. If somebody hires me to paint a horse, I will have completed the trifecta of rich people portrait art. I've painted rich people's faces, I've painted their pets, I painted a boat. So it's a quartet. Someone who owns a horse has to be like, I need you to paint my horse. His name is Reginald. A fair number of people here tonight, so just welcome everybody aboard. If anybody popped on, we're working on a birthday drawing for a friend of mine. I've actually always wondered if I should draw any other, like, one of those things that I wrestle with conventions going, because I like to go to a convention and promote whatever I'm working on for myself or what I'm going to be working on or whatever. But sometimes I'll do like a few pre-done pieces to sell there. I don't know. I've always kind of shied away from too many turtles, because I definitely see some people that'll crank out 100 drawings of characters that they've worked on for before a convention, but I just don't know if I have that in me. I don't know if they would be any good, because I would feel like I'm being like a forced march to have to draw like that. Hey Brian, good to see you. You did. A wizard is never late. He arrives precisely when he intends to. I hope you had a good show. Your train show. Yeah, we've got our 4 turtles. We've got our background gridded in. If we could finish inking the foreground Donnie, I'd be happy. That would be a good way to end the evening, I think. So I tend to draw little chips missing on their shells here and there, because they're, I admit my turtles that I draw look like they're older. They look like they're all, instead of like 14, 15, 16, which is what I think they intend them to be. Especially Mikey being the youngest, I think. Or at least coming off that way. Mine all look like they're about to go to college, I guess. They're at the latter end of the teenage aspect of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh, you're very welcome, Michael. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Oh, good. I'm glad it went well. I gotta ask, at comic shows, like, the dealers will trade stuff? Is there, like, wheeling and dealing amongst the dealers at a model train show? And just like it's not just model trains, it's like miniatures and all kinds of stuff like that. Because you've done, like, museum displays, all kinds of things. Not gonna go too crazy with the texture, just a little bit. Okay, good. I'm glad that's a universal thing where the dealers are going around like, "I'll trade you," in comic terms, they're like, "I've got a whole bunch of this, and I don't have any of this, so I'll trade you for a bunch of that." Like, I have a bunch of X-Men comics, but I don't have a ton of Batman, so can I trade you some X-Men comics for some Batman comics? Don't want to draw too many perfectly straight lines because then it gets a little boring. Let's see. Look at that. Brian comes on and like four more people pop in. I can't see who's in on my end, but I can see the number. I can see when it goes up and down and which platforms have the most people watching. I can see that. It's usually a race between YouTube and Facebook. Twitch is just kind of there. We'll get the occasional looky-loo. After this stream tonight, I'm gonna go work on reading. I've been reading a book that I picked up. I think I showed it to you guys. I don't know if I can reach it if it's right here. Oh, it's right here. Yep. This is the Joe Kubert archives. It's like a whole bunch of Golden Age reprints of Joe Kubert stuff from the 50s. And I love the artwork in this. The art's so good. There's just so many different genres in here. Like, this is like Meet Miss Pepper, and it's like a funny dramedy teen story, and then there's the horror stuff, there's some war stuff, there's some westerns. It's all kinds of stuff. I love the like variation of genre that was around then. So I'm gonna read some of that and fall asleep because it's been a pretty long day. I always like putting the tape on the fingers and stuff because it's a good break on the shape, the different parts of the figure, especially when you put it in the joints and stuff. It's a good way to. You think about like the design element to it, it makes it dynamic. Think about like different ways tape's been used on characters, like Marv from Sin City. It's basically a silhouette with bandages. I actually have to order some more. I'm running low on paper, if you believe it. I got to order some more from Blick on the website there. I'm not sponsored by them. I just have some gift cards. I actually have no sponsors except for my friends that buy my work. No official show sponsors. Brian, maybe we should make the game, your game or train company, the official sponsor of the live drawing show. We'll just put your name and your logo in there. It'll look very very legitimate. Legitimize the stream, I guess. Wide Open West? Is that the gaming? Wide Open West? There was actually an eBay sale. I don't know. I was like, I bet Brian bought one of those. Somebody sold somebody bought some of my tick prelims and had Ben sign them in Baltimore and had them graded, and they came up for auction and they sold for like a pretty wide range of pricing. I don't know if that guy made his money back on his after paying for the artwork and then paying to have it graded. If he made his, I don't know if he made a profit on that, but they sold for more than I sold them for. So everybody knows I sell those prelims for like $25. But when you factor in like the Wild East games, I was close. I was close. So close. The sub from Undersea Hero is actually probably one of the tougher things. Or Undersea Hero's lair. I do want to do little sculptures of like Lord Krakus and stuff at some point. Okay. Like a little tube portion here. Actually, that's going to be entirely blacked out. There we go. With LED lights, geez. That's like the fancy model kit that says like, you know, parent supervision required on the side of the box. I don't know who it was. Was it Time Life? There was some company that used to send models. One of my relatives got us like a subscription. When we were kids, they would send us little model cars like once a month for like a year. So like Time Life or something. I don't know. My brother and I did those for a couple of years. We had a relative send those to us. It was pretty cool. I never got like too far into model making, but I remember really enjoying that as a kid. We had like, and they weren't like the sturdiest models. They were just like punched plastic or whatever. But they were like cars, and there was some military stuff, and then there was like occasionally there'd be a boat. You know. It could have been the Franklin Mint. That could have been it. I think it was my grandparents on my mom's side that got us those. Yeah, my parents definitely weren't buying us coins, no fancy coins, but yeah, we did like a subscription to models at one point when I was a kid. I think they got them for us because they knew we liked Legos, building those, and they're like, "Oh, well, this is kinda like the next thing of building stuff." Maybe they hope we'd be architects or engineers or something. That would make sense because my grandfather on that side, I think got us those, was an engineer. Who helped build, like, municipal buildings and bridges and stuff. He would design that stuff. Actually has his name on some stuff in New York City, which is pretty cool. Some buildings, some bridges, and so is his father, Lester Hammond. He's on it's at the Bridge of the East River. He was one of the principal architects or engineers on that project. And I tell people, he was a pretty respected engineer, and he ended up moving to Cleveland because at one time Cleveland was a major city on the Great Lake there with all the goods coming through, and they had tons and tons of need for building at the time. There was a time in history when it was one of America's fastest growing cities. Oh, you got some Legos today? Nice. A master miniature builder. I feel like that you have an unfair advantage in a Lego contest. I feel like you would have a big advantage. Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, we were actually joking about that the other day. I have to go to like a corporate thing uh, next week. If they had some sort of Pictionary, do I self-identify as an unfair advantage, or do I go in as the ringer? Um, or do I draw with my left hand to make it fair? Although I've actually practiced drawing with my left hand, I find that to be a very fun challenge. Um, it's interesting because like I don't have the muscles built up in my left hand, but I have the knowledge of what I want to do. So like if it's just a different look, it's very soft. It's nowhere near as like tight or as hard as the lines are. It's interesting. Maybe someday we'll do that as an exercise on the channel where we draw with both hands. It would just be fun to show the difference between the two. Like you can see the knowledge, but the muscle memory isn't there, and then like all the practice, like the strength, the hand strength isn't there. But I think I could figure it out and do something respectable if I have to switch. If something happens with my health and I have to switch hands or something, I would have a whole new thing to practice. Always got to have the tape on the hands. It was a contest for kids. Yeah, and Homer beat their brains in. Classic. I just shared over on another platform. One of my favorite gags is when Homer falls asleep and the house is on fire, and Ned goes in to save him, and he's got a mattress on the ground, and Ned looks up at the skies and says, "Lord, let Homer hit the mattress straight and true," and he pushes Homer out the window, and he hits the mattress and bounces back into the house through a window. It's one of my favorite gags ever from that whole series. But Well, we finished inking Don, so we will. Oh, Brian is. I always let people think I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm happy when they are surprised at my skill level. I'm afraid if I tell them it's what I do for a living, that they'll have some super high expectations I can't meet. That's fair. That's fair. Well, we finished one figure, so we're going to call it a night tonight. Thanks everybody for coming. Here's our prelim, so you can see the variation between the prelim Don figure and the finished Don figure in inks. Like I said, we're going to be painting this, so you'll see what I'll be doing. You'll see here with the shadows, like this will be done with underpainting with what'll likely be Payne's gray, which is like a bluish gray. And, I go in there with that on these parts, and then I go in with the other colors and the light colors and stuff, and we work our way through it. Fancy hand crank zoom so you can see where the piece is at. Hey, Ruben, good to see you, man. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, I'll get to work on finishing the inks hopefully tomorrow, and then get to painting and get this thing out to you. So, hope everybody has a good night and a good weekend. And thanks for hanging out, Douglas, Caleb, everybody. And hope to see you next week. Thanks again. Good night.